Good afternoon, everybody. It's 2:02 on Thursday, February 11th, 2021. We're at the regularly scheduled board meeting for the Sunshine Coast Regional District, which is located on the traditional territories of the Sechelt and Squamish Nations. Just before we get going on our agenda here, Chair Pratt was unable to be with us today, so I'm chairing this meeting. And while I was prepared to handle today's meeting by myself, it was pointed out that I need a vice chair in case I drop dead or lose internet or something. So Director McMahon has offered herself as tribute. So before we get going today, can I have a motion to appoint Director McMahon vice chair for today's board meeting? Moved, seconded. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Looking at our agenda, we do have an amended agenda, adding the Infrastructure Services Committee recommendations number 4, 8, and 9 from this morning's meeting. Before we adopt, directors, do you have anything else you would like to add to our agenda? Director McMahon.
Actually, I don't think I need to add this. I have some business arising.
Okay. Then I look for a motion to adopt the amended agenda. Moved, seconded. All those in favor? All right, thank you very much. First up, Annex A, regular board meeting minutes of January 28th, 2021. I would look for a motion to adopt. Moved, seconded. Are there any errors, omissions, or changes to be made to those minutes before we adopt? Seeing none, all those in favor of adoption? Thank you. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Director McMahon.
Yeah, regarding the Dakota Ridge road maintenance contract, I was asked by members of the community what date the contract runs to and whether that's changed. The suggestion was made that there's a certain date that it ends on irrespective of snow conditions. So I just wanted to find out what that was.
All right. GM Hall, did you want to take that?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have the contract in front of me, but I can say that the season is planned to end on March 31st this year, 2021. And some years we do have to close the facility early if there's an early melt and the road is especially soft. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We have no presentations or delegations today, so we will move into our reports. And we have 2 batches of recommendations. We'll do these just one at a time. Annex B, which is the Corporate and Administrative Services Committee recommendations number 1, 2, 4 through 8, and 10 of January 28th, 2021. So can I have a motion to receive and adopt? Moved, seconded. Thank you very much. Directors, are there any of these recommendations that you'd like to pull to separately discuss? Seeing none. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Next up is our late addition, which is the Infrastructure Services Committee recommendations number 4, 8, and 9 from earlier today. Can I have a motion to receive and adopt? Moved, seconded. Any of those that directors would like to pull for further discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. We have no communications. We have no motions. We have no bylaws. Otherwise, Chair Pratt would be here today to read off our bylaws for us. So we will go straight into directors' reports. I am going to start in Pender Harbor and work my way to the other end of the coast. So Director Lee, you're up.
Hadn't even thought about my report yet. Nothing to report. It was quiet.
All right. Thank you, Director Lee. District of Sechelt, I'm going to let Director Seegers go.
All right. What have I been up to? Oh, my goodness. I think last week before, not a lot pertaining to this. I did do some recording for 91.7. I haven't actually heard them. I've heard from others in the community that they have heard them and they're okay. We're looking to spotlight our public works and parks staff. So that's what those are about. As you know, we've got the alternative approval process in motion right now with regards to funding for our building on Dusty Road for the public works and park staff. That closes at 4 p.m. on February 26th. So that's happening. The community action team has a new community coordinator kind of thing, or executive director, or whatever it's called. She lives in Powell River. So funding has been provided, $100,000 for that program again for this year. We're looking at harm reduction initiatives on that. So we've had a few interviews or a few meetings and things around that piece. Other than that, I attended the Local Government Leadership Academy, as some of the rest of you did. There were some really good sessions there, some really good sessions. I ended up being dragged away for a few of them, but all of them are available online. So there's some, I want to go back and listen to some of them again, and some of the ones that I didn't have an opportunity to take part in, I want to go and check out. What I'm finding is over this last year, there's been a lot more work put in by the groups that are putting on these conferences. The first few, I have to say, I was disappointed in online, but the last couple that I've taken part in, they've really been doing the work behind the scenes, and it's really showing up in the quality of the speakers, the way it's rolling out to us. It was actually very engaging, and I know some of the other directors here were part of that as well. What else? Poverty reduction strategy. The District of Sechelt got a grant from the province to put together a poverty reduction action plan for the Sunshine Coast. They met with Mayor Beamish and I and Chair Pratt this past Monday, and they were just giving us some preliminary information and kind of having us give some input. They're really on the right track, but I have to say that some of the information that they've gathered is really disturbing. And I'll give you just one example. One of the principals at one of the schools indicated that she believes 25% of the students at the school come to school hungry and don't have food for lunch. So the school program actually provides funding to them. She said they have food at the school, and by the end of the day, it's all gone. So that's one of the stats. They've actually done a lot of interviews with people here who have lived experience, and it's reflected in what they're bringing forward. Again, Mayor Beamish and I saw each other a few times this past week. We took part in a Sunshine Coast Advisory Council meeting with Capilano University. We had one meeting with them, the inaugural meeting of the committee a few months ago, I guess, maybe 5-6 months ago. And they came back to us now and said, okay, we heard you. Here's a list of all of the things we're doing. And one of them, for example, is the early childhood training. They actually have moved the course online, so it's fully online. Intake course starts March 15th, all online, and they can work through the program and get their certification. So they recognize that was a need here, and they've created the program to make that happen. And there are other ones that they're working on around that as well. Other than that, I took part in a pre-budget session with our MP, as did a couple of others here. And just he actually pulled together a number of people in the community from various sectors, including nonprofit, and then asked us, what is your ask of this next budget that's coming forward from the federal government? So it was really, really good to hear how the asks tie together and how they support the community as a whole. So I'm really pleased with what our community is up to, and it's really showing in how they're stepping up to support everybody. I think that's about it. Councillor Todd, back to you. Director Todd, Chair Todd, whichever name you want.
So many different meetings and so many different positions. Thank you, Director Seegers. I did have one question about the poverty reduction stuff. You mentioned the school food program. Is there a way individuals can get involved with that, either through financial donation or time or anything like that you know of, or somebody that they can be put in touch with?
I could arrange that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just know a few people who would be very keen to assist with that program. So, all right, next up we have Roberts Creek, Area D, Director Ties.
Thank you, Chair. In what was already a very busy week last week, I think I went well over the 20-hour mark in Zoom meetings attended. I took one of the rare opportunities to actually sit in on the Metro Vancouver Indigenous Relations Board meetings. They usually happen during on Thursdays while we're in meetings, so I very rarely get to attend, but I did attend this one, and there was an update by the Assistant Deputy Minister Jessica Wood from the Ministry of Indigenous Relations, and regarding the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People Act, which comes from the UNDRIP that the federal government signed up for. So this is the provincial version of it, and they're working on it. And there's 5 key initiatives that they've come up with in consultation with the Indigenous nations, and they are: 1, increasing opportunities for capacity building. This objective would respond to First Nations requests for funding to meaningfully engage with Metro Vancouver on project referrals. So this is where I actually, voiced our desire to be part of and made it known that we want some support there as well from the province. 2, involving First Nations and regional governance. This objective would address some of the First Nations requests to participate in governance and decision-making at Metro Vancouver. And of course, we already have some good presence from the Sechelt Nation, but not too much from the Squamish Nation. 3, providing more employment and training opportunities. And then we've got 4, engaging in more government-to-government agreements. And of course, the Foundation Agreement is one of those. And one thing I realize is that we here are really at the forefront of all of this, and in many ways a guinea pig, because we've got that Foundation Agreement is very much something. They're basically writing the book with us, and that's it's very, that's something that I hadn't quite realized, is that how unique we really are, and what a opportunity we have here to shape things for the rest of the province. So we have to kind of stay on top of our advocacy, I think, here. And then 5, expanding procurement opportunities and providing more opportunities for First Nations and their preferred entities to compete on any Metro Vancouver projects, or I guess SCRD projects located anywhere in the region. And actually they had 6 points, sorry. And then of course 6 is acknowledging, respecting, and promoting local First Nations. Ensuring that the local First Nations histories, traditions, cultures, protocols, values, beliefs, lands, territories, rights, and governments are considered, acknowledged, respected, and promoted as appropriate for the occasions. So there was some headlines being made recently that a couple of the municipalities are not doing territorial acknowledgements, and that was talked about. But yeah, it was a worthwhile attending it, and I did kind of speak to Mrs. Wood and just told her, it's like, we're both the nations and us are expected to be doing all this work, but there's no funding coming, and she said, yeah, that's currently there's no funding set aside for that. So, but I did speak up on that. So that's it for me, and I'll hand it on from here.
All right. Thank you, Director Ties. Next up from Elphinstone, Director McMahon.
Thank you. Following up on Director Ties' comment about territorial acknowledgements, you may have seen that there is a workshop being offered by folks from the Squamish Nation to personalize your connection to the decolonizing practice of acknowledging Indigenous territories. And that will be on February the 24th at 11 a.m. It's a 1-hour workshop coming up. I have had a busy time, like many of us, except maybe Area A. And I took the Facebook tour of the Sechelt Public Works Yard, which was fun. And in fact, I think we should do tours of our facilities like that, because it really gives the public an idea of what their tax dollar is doing. So yeah, great. I attended a number of the LGLA sessions. I found, it seemed to me that there was a very different feel at the conference this year. And I think part of it is that previously it's been kind of business as usual and theoretical, but this last year we've all been through is boots on the ground. And I think people are much more thinking practically about, you know, what it really means to be running a local government. I also noticed the very large number of women presenters. It was at least 50-50 in the sessions I attended, and a lot of younger people. And maybe that partly brought some very good energy to the conference. But anyway, it felt pretty good. We had a coffee chat with BC Assessment. Director Lee attended with me, and also Colin Stansfield from Scredo. And we had a chance to quiz BC Assessment about their information on housing types and age, because that's important for retrofits, but it will also be helpful for the regional growth strategy. And it turns out they have a ton of information, and in fact, our staff are able to access it through, I think, through the financial department, but they can dig right into that data. There's a portal, which is cool. I attended the AVICC Climate Action Committee on Monday. It was mostly about following up from the fall conference, and they are holding a First Nations and Youth Summit next month. If you know any First Nations or youth who are interested in climate change and AVICC. I also went to the Scredo board meeting. That was a particularly interesting one. We had a presentation from Janice Iverson and Katrina Welsh from Community Futures about the plans for the Innovation Center that will be housed in the House of Clans in Sechelt. Partners in that facility will include Community Futures, RISA, Community Resource Center, Scredo, Powerhouse, the Community Foundation, and Scale Collaborative. The tentative opening date at this time is the summer of 2022. And Scredo and their partners are raising the required funding for the lease. They have a deal to get a 20-year lease for around, don't quote me, but it was around $1.5 million for 20 years. Colin put together a draft snapshot of the Sunshine Coast business sector using data that's generally available. This was still a draft, but the 4 directions that were initially suggested, or focus areas for economic opportunity, were existing services sector, supplementing or enhancing our existing strong services sector, agriculture, the blue economy or marine economy, and livelihood entrepreneurs. And yeah, I continue to have interesting conversations about all of that. They also had a really interesting discussion about whether Scredo might be the place to put a regional social planner. City of Powell River has put in a community planner position for social planning. We kicked that around a bit. I think everybody can appreciate that that role could be just like hugely broad. That there's so many needs out in the community, but at the same time, Scredo might be a very interesting partner. They can be more nimble than local government, and they could bring some interesting lenses to the conversation. One of the things that gets no attention, and I brought this up in the business sector snapshot, is essentially the working poor on the Sunshine Coast are in many ways the foundation of our economy. And during the initial COVID shutdowns, those were the people who were still working and who were desperately needed. And they don't tend to show up in our economic planning. These are people like long-term care aides and transportation workers and so forth. We don't get anywhere without these folks. So anyway, lots of interesting potential conversations. I attended parts of the Patrick Weiler Facebook Live event with Minister McKenna. That was pretty interesting, especially when my computer started to melt down because it doesn't like the new version of Facebook. Last night was the Elphinstone Community Association meeting. The guest speaker was Tracy Green from Canada Census about the upcoming May 11th Canada Census. My favorite question she was asked was, how many people lie for the census? And I thought, oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah. That was a really good meeting last night. And I just got to give a shout out to my community. They are out there doing a whole lot of really great projects and initiatives. And it's really nice to see. And it was well attended last night too, at least for the community association. We had, I think, 19 people there, which is a pretty good turnout in our neighborhood on Zoom. We've had a lot more out in person to the hall, but the Zoom is funny. It's been a slow uptake on Zoom. Finally, I want to point out that tomorrow is two important events. It is Winter Go By Bike Day, which means it is going to snow tomorrow. And it is also the backyard bird count. And if anybody is interested in participating in the backyard bird count, it is the website is birdcount.org. So that's all that's exciting in Elphinstone today.
Great. Thank you, Director McMahon. I love the question, how many people lie on the census? It's like, how do you know what you don't know? But were they able to answer that question in any way, shape, or form? She said that she suspected their data crunchers, she had a better word for it than that, have some sort of algorithm for inaccuracies in the collection of data. All right. Next up, we have Director Beamish from the town of Gibsons.
Well, I can't keep up with that presentation. I'm not going to try. A couple of things, though, I'd like to mention. First of all, next week I'm away. Not away, just off. I finally decided to take some time to myself, so I'm going to do that. And David Kroll will be attending the meetings next week, so you'll see him again. This past week, I attended the inaugural Youth Council meeting with Ailish McKenzie and Gravity Guinard. Started the conversation. They had a small group of youth on Facebook. Not Facebook, on Zoom. And I was invited to make some introductory remarks, and that's all I went for. That's all I stayed for. So they were looking to see if there was enough interest from the youth in establishing a council and keeping the program going, and not spending more energy than if there was not the interest there. So I'll be interested to see what comes of that. Right now, I've been doing a bit of work in the background, putting together a welcome package for the residents of the supportive housing. I've got letters of welcome from Patrick Weiler, from Nicholas Simon, myself, and the Nicholas Sontag Center has offered passes to the aquarium down there. The art galleries offered free membership for a year. The libraries put a package in talking about what services are available in town and how they can access those services, Wi-Fi and online books and things of that nature. So it's really just to kind of say, welcome. You're part of our community. We want you to be part of our community. And here's some of the services you can enjoy. So if anybody else has any ideas, let me know. I'm going to try to have those finished for tomorrow. We have a conference call with BC Housing tomorrow, get an idea of what their timing is. I anticipate they'll be used fairly quickly. With regards to the meeting with Patrick Weiler, yeah, a lot of good energy in that meeting and good ideas. You know, as Darnella says, a lot of focus on housing. My theme for it was that the federal government should be looking at a put people first budget in a sense of we have lots of infrastructure money. We have lots of money that's available to us for gas tax and things of that nature, and lots of other projects, but we're missing some people, and the homeless, the youth, the seniors, people who need support. So we need to get out and on a daily basis and help those people get on their feet. Talked about education again to support vulnerable people, skill development, affordable housing, workforce housing. Again, the theme is that we need workforce housing, but I suggest in the absence of workforce housing, how about a tax credit? You know, to give a proportion of rental costs as a tax credit for a 5-year period until we can get something in place. Community, gain the vulnerable people, sustainable facilities. One thing we don't have here on the coast is access to any facility for treatment. And having some place that people can actually take treatment closer to home for addictions, alcoholism, and things of that nature. And also finally a focus on climate change. And those were the kind of themes I put my notes, submitted them into Donna and for Patrick's use. So if anybody wants to copy those notes, you're welcome. Yeah, I think that's about it. Busy. I mean, I was with all the same meetings you guys were at, except the LGMA, LGLA meetings. I had other things I had to be involved with. So it's a busy time. I'm looking forward to some time off. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Director Beamish. Next up, we have Director Hiltz, Area F.
Thank you, Chair Toth. Yeah, Area F, I'm going to go to the far extremes of Area F, which is the islands out there. So last Thursday, I attended the Gambier Local Trust Committee, which is, I was there as panelist for a little bit to give a report on the RCMP vehicle, the New Brighton dock, and the SCRD budget. And also just following along on their agenda. And for me, it's really useful to see a different local government and how they present reports and how the elected officials work with the staff. So I find it quite, it's one of the blessings of Zoom. It allows me to go from one place to another. I think in the past I attended one of those in nearly 2 years. So I continue to find that useful. And that the island's trustees, they're both multi-term trustees, and they continue to offer they have which they would call extensive email addresses of constituents on the islands that they use. So they do offer this as a way for the SCRD to push out information to the islands. I don't think it's been done necessarily. It is an option that's there. February 8th is the Gibsons and District Public Library Association meeting. Yeah, it's it's definitely a working board. They have their subcommittees. They keep working on governance. And one of the things that I always find interesting is how much support the library the BC Library Trustee Association provides to them. There's the training opportunities, and they're really inexpensive, like $25. Like just so they're the Trustees Association, it's called the BCLTA. It really supports the trustees well. It's a version of LGLA, I suppose, but a lot lower cost. Just the libraries, the phrase was beg, borrow, or steal is that's the library's phrase. Constituency topics, Grantham's post office continues to be a topic. A little bit about illegal dumping, getting a couple calls, and only one camper, and the referral I do is Rain City. That's the referral that I'm giving people when they ask about people who are campers and improperly housed. And also solid waste, as people are asking about solid waste a little bit, just how it works. And just, I didn't attend the electoral area forum or LGLA, but the one thing I did hear from the EA forum is that the refunding start for regional districts is water under the bridge. That's kind of what I understood, and they're not going to be revisiting that formula, and it's like moving forward with all the other issues. That's kind of the thing that I heard from the EA forum. So I think, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. I've got. I wasn't actually all that busy. I mean, I represented the SCRD at the Patrick Weiler pre-budget town hall there on Tuesday, I guess that was, and yeah, I mentioned sort of rural and marine transportation, reprocessing of marine debris, because we can always use more help coming up with solutions for that. Continued investment in rural connectivity and services such as education and long-term care. You know, those soft people services rather than just infrastructure jobs. I was really impressed with the way Director Beamish said, you know, put people first. I think that summed up a lot of the concerns and a lot of the issues that people brought up on that call. We can always use more infrastructure money, but we need to make sure that the money that's being funneled out of the federal government is benefiting everybody, not just the, you know, blue collar construction workers. So that's really all I've got to report. Director Seegers, you've got something else you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I wanted to mention that there was also a meeting sometime in the last few days between MP Patrick Weiler with Chris Biddle, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport, with regards to Porpoise Bay. So we are still pursuing, along with a number of residents on East Porpoise Bay, West Porpoise Bay. Seashell Nation has had some input, although they didn't come to this meeting, in dealing with the derelict boats and the illegal mooring that's happening out there. There's, I understand there's one lady who has a couple of different floats that she's brought in, 50 to 100-foot floats, and she has boats tying up to that she is renting to, and they're being used for Airbnb or short-term rentals. So there's a lot of work to be done. We're raising the profile. The issue we run into is it's multi-jurisdictional, and so we're gonna have to come up with some kind of solution that allows, you know, the federal government, provincial government, municipal government, and the Seashell Nation to actually all be involved in whatever that solution is. And of course, whatever the solution is needs to have some funding from somewhere. So this was raising it to another level because this will go right directly to the Minister of Transport in Ottawa. So stay tuned. We're still working on it, but I just wanted to give you the heads up. SCRD will be pulled into it once we actually look at it. We're getting somewhere. At this point, it's I know one person said some of the stuff that we talked about is just a rehash of the last meeting. And so, you know, as we move it forward, we'll make sure that you're involved and informed. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I contemplated making some remarks about breaking up the cross-jurisdictional logjam when it comes to the water, because like they can't keep pointing the finger at each other. You know, we got to deal with this stuff. So that's all of our directors' reports. We have no new business on this agenda. We do have an in-camera session. So I look for a motion that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with section 91G of the Community Charter, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality. Moved, seconded, all those in favor? All right, thank you very much. And just before we go in camera, do we have any questions from our attendee? I guess not, because he has left us. So all right, we'll take 2 minutes just to secure your surroundings, and then we'll reconvene. And welcome back to our regularly scheduled board meeting of Thursday, February 11th, 2021. With no further items on our agenda, may I have a motion to adjourn? Moved, seconded, all those in favor. Thank you very much. We will see you all some other time.